Hey, welcome back to Gold's Garage. So I've often, if you watch my videos before, heard me say the startup of a new engine is kind of like the birth of a baby. If it survives the first 20 minutes, it's probably going to have a long and happy life. And if it does survive, then the next thing is, if it was a baby, you would want to know everything you could possibly know about that so you can kind of predict what its health is going to be. And in the case of an engine, the biggest stressor, in case of this engine anyway, that it's going to face probably in its lifetime is when it's almost brand new, because it's going to the dyno a week from this Saturday, and we're going to probably make more horsepower and torque on the dyno 10, 12, 15 times than it will have to make even in the car. So it's going to have the ultimate test. So we want to make sure everything's perfect. So I call it, startup diagnostics. And before I forget, I got to do things. Please like and subscribe. And the next one is a shout out to Bill Little. He's at Indy right now with his Super Stock J automatic car, getting ready to qualify. So ambitious guy. He went testing in Canada last weekend, and he went right from Cayuga to Indy. And so hello to Bill and Janice, and good luck at Indy. So what we're going to do here, this is David Bougie's 427. It's been the subject of many videos. We bought this engine originally from BluePrint. And we totally dismantled it, made a whole bunch of changes to it, including a custom camshaft. I changed the bearing clearances, did a bunch of other stuff to it, fixed a few issues that it had, and back together. And we're going to start up and let you hear it run with the headers, open headers. And my neighbors don't mind if I don't do it too often. It's actually a beautiful sound. So we're going to do that for you. But first, I'm going to explain the process of diagnostics for a new engine and then documenting those diagnostics. And it's very, very important. Every engine that I build, a customer gets a binder like this with every document referred to it, part numbers, instructions, detailed information from any of the parts that we buy or purchase, including the invoices and all that kind of stuff. So they have a long-term reference. All the documentation that we take and we're talking about here goes on an Excel spreadsheet. I will post this Excel spreadsheet at the end of the video. It's a lot to put in a corner, so I'll put it at full size at the end of the video so you can have a look at it. And that's where we're at today. We still got more numbers to put on it. That's where we're at today. So take the diagnostics so you understand and learn the health of that engine, and then you can take it to the dyno, no stress at all. This thing will be warmed up, broken in, the rings are not broken in, but warmed up and pre-tested. We know there's no leaks. We know all the information about it. And when you get to Daryl's dyno, we're going to start up and start making pulls. So here's what I do. I actually have started it up already. I wanted it warmed up, and so there's two series of testing. With the first startup with the engine running, and then I shut it off, let it cool down, and do a whole bunch of more diagnostics after it's cooled down, and then it's ready to go. The next time you see this engine in the video will be on the dyno next week. So when we first start it, what do we pay attention to? Oil pressure is important. The timing, I preset the timing, and if you want to have a nice clean startup, it's really simple. Bring your balancer up to, let's say, 20 degrees before top dead center. Line up your rotor with #1 spark plug wire, and it'll start and run right off the bat. And you want to make sure that it does that, especially if you have a flat tappet engine. This is a roller cam. You have a flat tappet cam, you do not want to be cranking that engine over. You want it to start almost immediately. If you do that and you have fuel and you do all your checks, you will start and run immediately. When we get it running, we want to measure the vacuum. We need to know what that is. How does it sound? I hope you're going to agree with me. It sounds pretty cool. Operating temperature, we're watching our gauges. I usually start it, bring it up to operating temperature. It takes about 10 minutes, and then shut it down and let it cool down. I measure the header temperature and each header with this device. And what we're looking for there is a difference between one header and the other. I kind of know after doing 100 engines what to expect. Usually the center two headers on a small block Chev, because the exhaust valves are right beside each other, are a little bit warmer. But we're looking for variation and overall temperature. So that's one of the checks you make on the first run. Inspection for leaks, and this we've already had it running, as I said, no leaks at all. And what does the exhaust look like when we rev it up? Is there any evidence of oil or black smoke or anything in the exhaust? And we want that to be nice and clean as well. So then we shut it down, let it cool down. I've already done that, okay? And then after the shutdown, here's the things I've already tested. Pressurize the cooling system. So I have a cooling system tester. This connects right onto the radiator. It's got a gauge on it, and I can put 15 or 20 psi of pressure into it. So if it holds pressure at that level, I know we don't have a head gasket leaking, or we don't have any other places where water is going to leak into the oil. You want that engine to be tight. So that's one of the first checks that we do. I remove the headers, and I've already done all that. Remove the headers, inspect the spark plugs as we take it apart. You want them all, basically you're looking for them to be the same. Now when you run an engine on a test stand compared to a dyno, you can't load it. So typically your spark plugs may run a little rich for that reason. You're pulling on the throttle, etc. But we're looking for variation in the spark plugs, evidence of something that could be just not right. And now we've got the headers off. I look in the exhaust ports, and if there's anything going on with one cylinder running rich, or whatever you see wash in the exhaust port, or oil, so it could be something like a valve guide leaking or something like that. That's another good test. Then I remove the valve covers, okay? And with your valve covers removed, take the two rocker arms off, number one cylinder, it doesn't matter what cylinder, and inspect the contact pattern between the rocker arm and the top of the valve. Before when I'm building the engine, I paint the top of every valve with, you can either use Dicom blue, or you can just use a black Sharpie magic marker or whatever. And then your rocker is going to leave a witness mark, and you get an idea whether you have a good contact pattern between your rocker and your valve. Okay. So with the valve covers off, then we go through the entire valve checking sequence, starting at number one, and I'm going to bring it over to Say Valley, coming all the way here. So I can't show you on the engine, it's pretty dark down in there, it's hard to see. So every balancer every engine I build, I mark the balancer up like this. So where's number one? We got to start at number one. There's number one. So we set number one valve, intake and exhaust, 90 degrees later. Number 8, intake and exhaust, just follow the firing order around. Now, when I'm doing that, I'm not resetting the valves. Don't back them off and reset them. Setting them, you're just making sure that there is no clearance. This is not a solid lifter cam. If it was, I would check the clearance, obviously. Now with the engine hot, that's always the way the final clearance should be set with a solid lifter cam. This is a hydraulic cam. So if there is a clearance, that's evidence that something's gone wrong. It was okay. Rocker arm contact patch. In the valleys of the oil, you see oil in the valley of your head. In this case, this engine it's an aftermarket block, so the head bolts go into a blind hole. They don't go into water. But on all small block Chevs, OEM blocks, they go into water, and they have to be sealed. And if you have any head bolts leaking, water pressure will come up that head bolt and land right in that valley. You can see evidence of that, a little bubble here and there or whatever. And then look on the inside of your valve cover. If there's any water getting into your oil, it'll create a milky substance on the back of your valve cover. And that's a sign you better go looking for the problem, because you do not want to have any water getting into your oil. I've done all these checks, of course, everything was fine, but those are things that you can check. You got the headers off, you got a good chance to look at everything, you got the spark plugs off, and you need to take the headers off anyways to do a leak down and compression test. On one side with these headers on, you can't get at the spark plugs. Then when I'm done just going through the valve checking sequence, I take a 5/8 socket on a 1/2 inch drive and just go around and snug up each of the adjusters just to make sure they're good and snug. Now I did that when I set the valves just to make sure that you don't want to have a rocker arm back off. Then I inspect my Moroso screen. So on the first startup, when I started this engine up, I installed this screen on top of the oil filter. You can buy this screen from Summit, you can buy it from Moroso, or you can buy it from Amazon even. And it sits on top of your oil filter. If there's any debris or junk coming out of your engine, you got something going on with your camshaft or your crankshaft or something, your bearing, all that's going to get stopped right here. It's not going to get into your filter and you're going to see it. The other option is, if you don't want to do that, typically guys will cut an oil filter apart, spread it out and look for shrapnel basically. You're not hoping to find any. I've already done that, obviously. I've cleaned this. A little bit of lint was on it. There's always a little bit of lint. In the industry, we call it rags and rubber. It's just a bit of gasket material or stuff like that. Anyway, that was okay. And then we do a compression test and a leak down test. And in this case, because we did this with this engine, put it on the test stand and did all these tests before we disassembled it. If you followed, we have a whole series of videos of how we took it apart. This was the original BluePrint engine. We have a baseline for compression and leak down, and we can compare the results after. And once again, I will post this. My fingers are kind of dirty and oily here, so I will post this once again, full size. And what I've showed in this documentation was what it was before and what it was after, including, once again, I opened up some bearing clearances. There were some connector rod bearing clearances that were a little bit tight. When I first started this engine, it had between 95 and 100 psi of oil pressure. It does have a high volume pump. BluePrint decided to use a high volume pump, so we stuck with that. We did put in a yellow relief valve spring. And by opening up those valve clearances, or the connecting rod clearances on the rods only, the mains were fine. On the rods only, at getting them all between 2 and 2.5 thou, we've managed to reduce the oil pressure a little bit. So that's successful as well. So compression and leak down, just to give you some numbers, the leak down was exactly the same within 1%. And the average is only 7 or 8%, which is on my Moroso gauge with leak down, wherever it is, my Moroso gauge leak down test, 7 or 8% is really, really good. So I think the number can vary depending on what kind of a tester and conditions you have. I've tested somewhere between 50 and 100 inches with it, and 8%, 7% is a really good number. And the best thing about it, all the cylinders are the same within 1%. Here's an interesting part, compression PSI, cranking pressure, because it was 192 average before, and once again, this sheet you can see yours for yourself. Before we had some cylinders over 200 PSI when it came from BluePrint. So I got a comment about that. If you watch my videos before about compression and camshafts, I've usually said 180 PSI is kind of my safe, comfortable sleep at night limit to prevent detonation. But BluePrint built this engine, and I'm sure they did lots of testing, and when I got it from them, it had over 200 PSI in some of the cylinders. And one thing to know, if you're worried about detonation, you got 8 cylinders. The first cylinder that detonates, you got detonation. You don't have to have them all. It had some over 200 PSI. So the average now is exactly the same, 192 PSI, but the maximum is 190. Yeah, the maximum is 195 and the minimum is 190. So really nice, close. The cranking compression is a function of a couple things, your compression ratio, but then your camshaft timing. And once again, this is a custom grind camshaft by Bill Little, and the closing point, the intake valve closing point is changed, so that affects your cranking compression as well. So I feel pretty good about it that the cranking compression numbers are as good as they were before in terms of being able to run on pump gas. It should be just fine. So those are a series of checks. I'll put this whole list up as well, a full-size list up at the end of the video. If you want to use it as a checklist, if you're starting up your own engine, before you throw it in the car, try to know as much about it as you can. And of course, that's the beauty of having a test stand. When we go to Daryl's, we're ready to fire it up and start making pulls. So once again, please like and subscribe. So we're going to stop this clip. We're going to move the engine outside, and I'm going to start it up and let you hear how it sounds. Okay, the moment we've all been waiting for, including me. Start up, and you let me know what you think, how it sounds. So. Okay, thank you for watching. The next time you see this engine, week from Saturday, we'll have it at Daryl's dyno, and let's see if all the changes we made get the results that we're expecting. Thank you very much for watching Gold Scratch. Please like and subscribe.